So there's been some interesting developments over at Funcom, rule changes and corporate acquisitions that will likely change Conan Exiles in both the immediate future and hopefully a bit further down the line too. Funcom have adjusted their terms of conduct in a pretty harsh way, aiming to improve performance on official servers, and in those acquisitions I mentioned there's a few things that could affect the future of Conan and its DLC. Firstly though, let's look at the rule changes. So this is an update to all the rules that players are expected to adhere to. You've got all the expected things. They've updated their harassment and inappropriate conduct section with some pretty sensible rules that are pretty much commonplace in any modern multiplayer game nowadays. They've also noted that any infractions by one player will likely affect their entire clan, which should hopefully encourage some better behaviour by individual clanmates, which of course will affect overall community behaviour as a whole, as there are bigger ramifications than just a single account sanction. The truly interesting part of this update lies within the official server building restrictions. This has been mentioned briefly by Funcom before, but now this will come into effect on September 27th this year. The new restrictions are designed to address some of those really heavy criticisms of official servers, the main ones being bad server performance and blocking of content by large clans. This change is a blanket rule that players are to not block content from other players or to create a monopoly on resources. Funcom does give some examples here in which they will take action, and these examples are as follows. Blocking of content in the game, including dungeons, obelisks, resources and areas. Abuse of the claim system to restrict player access to resources or building spots. This is one I've heard a lot about, so I think this is going to be probably a really good change. And then finally, massive constructions or overuse of memory intensive items that cause loss of performance for server and client. Obviously, this rule does extend past these parameters, but these are very clear-cut cases where Funcom say they will take action. That action will be in the form of an immediate wipe of all constructions owned by the offending player, or their clan if they're in one. Materials, inventories, etc. will not be refunded. Now this is an incredibly harsh punishment, but in my opinion it's exactly what's needed. Blocking content or draining the server's performance in this way is exactly why people complain about official servers, and that isn't just true for Conan, it's true for various other survival games that have their own official servers. So, to create a better environment for everyone, these restrictions sound like a good way to tackle that. As it stands, the currently recommended way to report players, clans or exploits are through Zendesk, which is through email. Not really the ideal way. An in-game option would be better, although of course there is always the chance that people will just spam it if they lose a PvP encounter or something like that. That's always the risk you take with in-game report options, but at least the option to actually file a report is there, and hopefully Funcom will be investigating those reports and taking action against those massive clans, blocking access to resources and areas. The other piece of big news from Funcom is the acquisition of various intellectual properties through the Cabinet Group. Cabinet Group holds various different intellectual properties, including Conan the Barbarian, Mutant Year Zero, Solomon Kane, and various other properties. Through this acquisition, Funcom will be incorporating that entire IP portfolio into one of their subsidiaries, Heroic Signatures, who are apparently already working on at least one unannounced project. The most pertinent question for us though is, what does that mean for Conan? Well, I think we can tell a little bit better by reading the statement put out by Rui Casais, I've probably butchered that, Funcom's CEO. To paraphrase, he says that we've all seen how crossovers of different games and even different industries have grown audiences, and he cites Fortnite crossing over with the Avengers as one of those examples, and he says that he's looking to do the same with other entertainment companies under the Funcom banner. What will this actually mean? Well, that's hard to say. You can probably expect to see some crossovers in the somewhat near future. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a Solomon Kane, Dark Agnes or KULT crossover within Conan, either as outfits, characters, or even full DLCs. It's hard to really say where this acquisition will go. It's nowhere near as big as when Fortnite crossed over with Marvel of course, but it does open up some interesting prospects for the future. And most importantly, it seems that most of those IPs have been acquired are ones that would fit into the world of Conan. Of course, this doesn't necessarily have to mean that all these IPs will cross over with Conan. Simply by virtue of owning all those IPs, I think it gives Funcom a lot more business flexibility, so if there is another property out there that they want to collaborate with, they can bring more to the table than just the partial rights to Conan. Probably one of the most important things from this acquisition is the full control over the Conan the Barbarian IP. This gives Funcom more flexibility with what they can do with the game and how they can take it forward. Now, I do think Funcom will stay within the realms of realism for the Conan universe. The devs clearly seem to have a lot of respect for and take a lot of inspiration from the writings of Robert E. Howard, but again it does open a lot of interesting possibilities. So I think that about covers the news from Funcom this week. Some good changes to the rules on official servers that should hopefully address some of the biggest complaints with those servers, and also a fairly exciting acquisition of various IPs that will hopefully be used to push Conan forward along with Funcom's other projects. As always, you'll find all the links to my Twitch, Discord, Twitter, Patreon and NordVPN discount in the description below, along with credit for the music used in this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I put out at least 2 videos a week, so there's always plenty of content to come. If you have any suggestions for future builds, I would love to hear them in the comments below. As always, a massive thanks to our patrons Sir Dialot, Randar, Connor, Blue Ivy, Velma, Torn, Eagle Rose and Maril224. Again, thank you very much for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.